yeah, I don't wanna like do this whole debate around the Rosie Jones documentary, but even that has split the whole disability community in like literally half.
Literally in half. There are
I know,
two camps.
I know, oh, well done. Now you just made my job like my own personal job of saying, "Oh, don't use that word."
Yeah.
Not even say it, but don't use that word. And now you're using it on a mainstream TV show. Cheers for that. Thank you.
I'm
Um,
so glad though that you said that about how it split the disabled community in two, because I was having this
yeah,
conversation with another disabled person who happens to be a really good
yeah,
friend of mine.
yeah,
And he said the exact same thing, that he has only seen two opinions of it. And there doesn't seem to be any wavering from either side of the fence.
no,
Like this is something that it's literally a parting of the Red Sea. Like Rosie Jones has somehow magically become Moses and has parted the Red
yeah,
Sea. And
yeah,
like the camps are not mixing. There's very, very stern viewpoints on both sides, both of which are completely applicable. And I
yeah.
just it's going to be one of those this is going to be one of those things that I think is debated about for a very long time. It's not going to be
But
something that just goes away overnight.
it goes back to language, doesn't it? So I
Yeah.
think the whole disability thing is when I start my sessions, I start with language. And
Mm-hmm.
companies always say to me, "Why is that your biggest section?" Right, because I think language defines you as a society or as an organization. So if
Yes.
you get the language right, then you're going to get the whole ethos right. You're going to get everything else
Yeah.
right. I could talk to you for 40 odd minutes about the social model of disability, but you want it to be tangible to the majority of people. I do have quite an interesting debate about even the word cripple, for example. That has also splitted the disability community a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And even with my better friends who I'm seeing on Friday, we have both very different opinions. She says that the disability community owns that word.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay for us to actually
To use
use.
it.
But I would say that I wouldn't want anybody to shout it at me down the actual street, whether or not you're disabled. Why have it in the first place? So that's only my own personal opinion. And also, I think it's important for you to know the actual history of the word. So it actually comes from the word creep. It has, relations to begging. In I just think language defines us, and it's quite important that disabled people, non-disabled people can get it right as much as they can, really. And recent events like a certain documentary has, shown it to be even more important, really.
Yes, because it's opened a can of worms that are not going to go back in the same can that they came out of.
I just about watched the whole thing, and she did have some good parts to it, but I just think it's just the title of it. It looks like potentially you're targeting a section of the disability community, potentially just using that title for your documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was to say, Michael Grimmett, am I a going boulder-headed man? Then, then you probably think, oh, he's targeting a baldy-headed man, men not young boulder or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're using that word that is used in as recently as the 80s to describe people with certain impairments. I just think it was a bit silly, really. When we had in my day, it was Joey from Blue Peter. He had a speech impairment, and
Mm-hmm.
and therefore anybody with a speech impairment throughout their whole life during school called Joey. I don't think Blue Peter kind of discussed the issue, and and I think this is a similar thing where like therefore, oh, it's really really good that have a program about disability, but they need to think about it a bit more, don't they, Brooke, really?
I think it's such an interesting one because I can understand all the hoops that were jumped through to first off even create this program, like the amount of work that has gone into it to get it to where it needs to go, particularly on a mainstream channel, particularly at the time of day that it went on at. All the hoops that would have been jumped through to get that were absolutely astronomical, particularly for somebody with a disability, particularly highlighting the problems within the disabled community, because those conversations are not had, and they're not something that we talk about very, unless you are in the disabled community, you don't necessarily know the issues that are in the disabled community, and that's like most communities as well, but this is one that actually is inherently problematic for every single disabled person, regardless of what your disability is. Like, you could have two completely different people who've got completely different disabilities and they're still affected by this. So on the one hand, I can completely understand all the work that went into creating this, because actually phenomenal amount of work, phenomenal amount of like cheerleading and pushing forward, and actually kind of quite progressive. However, on the flip side, exactly what you were saying about language, problematic. And you're so right, it's our use of language that really defines who we are and what we do and what we stand for. And it's just, it is problematic because it split the disabled community so in half, and neither side, and I think maybe this is because we're disabled people, I don't know, but 9 times out of 10 most disabled people I know are defiant, to use a nice way of putting it. Very defiant, and that means that neither side particularly want to listen to the other side's issues or the benefits of it, because each one believes wholeheartedly that their viewpoint on this is the right one, because it's so personal. Even though it was like a very broad and generic topic, it's actually an incredibly personal one for most disabled people. So I think that there's a lot to contend with surrounding it, and actually I'm kind of just taking a back seat from it at the minute and taking it all in, because I'm still formulating my own opinions, my own ideas, how I think and feel about it. But I'm very much with you that I think the use of language really defines who we are as people. And I'm a big believer in that, as soon as you open your mouth, you're telling the world exactly who you are. And that goes down to your choices of words and your choice of language and how you speak. So what does that say? And is it a good way of saying what you want to say? Could other words have been used? Could other phrases, other choices of language, syntax, whatever, could that have been used? I don't know. I don't have any of the answers. These are all very much my own opinions. But it's a fascinating one to kind of sit back and watch.